love that. I think that's great because that's what life should be, organic, you know?
Yeah, completely. Well, it's about. I think sometimes I'm probably going to get in trouble for saying this, but you see some musicians like kind of the whole social media thing has taken over these days, and people going out and it just like almost overdoing it, and it doesn't become an organic thing. It becomes sort of a right. I'm going to hassle this person. I'm going to hassle this person. I'm going to chase this person. And to me, it's you've got to find that happy balance between going out and searching for opportunities and meeting people versus actually just being a nice down-to-earth human and not actually just being that person that all they're out for is to get something. I think
Yeah.
that's really important. I run into too
Yeah.
many people that they're like, oh man, can you give me this, can you help? And it's like, well, hold on, just chat to me first. Don't just sort of go, can I have this, can I have a gig? It's kind of
Yeah,
bizarre.
and I think this is it. It's really important to build those relationships because those sort of foundations are where everything grows from, you know.
Mm.
And it's interesting. So Bob put me in touch with this guy down in Wales, and he actually restores drums and
Oh, cool.
puts new lacquers on and makes the shell sound good again, all that sort of thing. And he's got
Yeah.
his workshop and everything. It's really cool. And I said to him, I hadn't that hadn't even thought about asking someone who was involved in the drumming world that way. So I mean, Lee is a drummer himself, but actually his passion is restoring vintage
Yeah.
drums into their former glory. What a cool thing, And he said,
Completely.
and he's like, oh man, when COVID's kind of over-ish, let's come down and have a look at the workshop. I want to show you around. I want to
Yeah.
talk to you about. And I thought, yeah, man, that's amazing. So it's super exciting, super exciting.
Yeah. Cool,
Um,
man.
it's brilliant. Very excited to hear that you're playing with Devin Townsend, by the way, at
Yeah.
Bloodstock. How
Yeah.
cool is that?
Yeah, I'm quite excited about that as well. The funny thing is, if I look a bit hot and sweaty, it's because we started this interview late. I was like, I better run through some of the songs. I've just been in my studio sweating away, trying to play the fastest songs that are just like, painfully difficult. So, but yeah, that's I'm looking forward to that. I mean, I've been a fan of Devon's music for years and years, and to suddenly get the call to do a couple of shows with him is awesome.
I think it's a great opportunity, isn't it?
Hmm.
I heard, was listening to an interview you'd done with another drummer.
Was it
Crab-
Joe? Joe
Yeah,
Crab?
Joe. Yeah, I heard
God,
that.
I did. That must have been about 10 or 11 years ago, I think.
So I had a little listen to that, and it was when you've been doing the stuff with Justin Hawkins and the
Yeah,
Darkness, and all the stuff
yeah,
with Hot Leg and all of
yep,
that sort of thing, and the opportunities with Gary Moore. But
yep,
being in a band felt like it was more of an important thing
yeah.
as well. It's funny, isn't it?
Well, it was, yeah. So I played sort of with Gary on and off. I've been touring with a guitarist called Buddy Whittington, who was John Mayall's guitar player for
Ah, cool. Yeah,
about
yeah.
15 years. And so Gary seemed to be a big fan of Buddy's, and he would come to shows. We would end up, playing shows together and stuff like that. And literally on day one of rehearsals with Justin Hawkins, my phone rang on a break, and it was Gary Moore, and he was like, "Darby, I've kind of fallen out with my drummer. He's not cutting it. Do you want to do the rest of the tour?" And I said, "Look, can I phone you back later today? I'm in the middle of rehearsal." He's like, "Fine." And I thought long and hard about it. And, as cool as actually being, Gary's permanent drummer rather than just playing a few odd shows with him, I just thought, for the first time in my life, I've got an opportunity to play in a band, with a guy that's already sold 5 million records and is still kind of current. And I just thought, it's not often you get that opportunity. And if you're going to try and make it in a band, you may as well do it with, it's a bit like if John Bon Jovi calls you to play in his new band, it's a far better bet that something's going to happen than playing with little Johnny in the garage down the road.
Absolutely.
So I took that thing, and actually, even though Hot Leg was kind of vaguely short-lived and probably only lasted about 18 months, I learned so much from it. I did so much cool stuff. Ended up doing the Darkness for a little while out of it as well when Ed was away. And yeah, I've got no regrets about that. To this day, I still think I made the correct choice. And it was like another avenue of stuff that opened up.
Yeah.
And I played a lot of blues music as a younger drummer, and it's kind of like I want to do something different. So playing some proper rock and roll shows and having a laugh seemed like the obvious thing to do.
Absolutely. And I think that, with the style that the Darkness have, that kind of that whole big show and that very much that, influenced by that 80s thing, like with Crew and Poison and those sort of bands. And then you've got like obviously Steel Panther are doing that now,
Yeah.
and being recognised that actually it's still a really cool thing, and it's still very appropriate, and I love that, because that's what I grew up on. I grew up on Def Leppard and Motley Crue and Bon
Yeah,
Jovi.
yeah, that sort of music I don't think will ever die, or it might slightly change in how it's presented, but I wish I was alive on the Sunset Strip in about 1985. That would have been look at all those bands, Guns N' Roses, Poison, all these sort of bands that would just be playing little club dates and building up their stuff. That would have been ideal.
I think that would have been what an era to have been able to have seen how that had grown. Even going back to seeing Van Halen, how they broke through in the late 70s and kind of spearheaded some of that, especially with Eddie's guitar playing, how that kind of influenced so many others from then on, that would have been a majestic time to have been, to have been able to appreciate it, Unfortunately, I was too young at that point. I was only like
20. It's only 20 in 1985. No, it was a good time, but it's kind of like even doing the Darkness thing. It's kind of, while it wasn't exactly the cock rock from the 80s, there's something about like headlining the Isle of Wight festival, playing I Believe in a Thing Called Love or Black Shuck or any of those songs, and I'm just sitting on stage in front of 40,000 people going, fuck me, I'm actually playing the song with the people that wrote it. We all do covers gigs and stuff when we're not out on tour, and there's just something definitely cool about playing the original songs with the original people.
Absolutely.
What go wrong with.
No, I know.
Yeah, it's all good.
It is very cool. So, what is your favourite Darkness song that you got to play? Because there's got to be one that was like the song that you loved.
God, it's been a few years now. That's a tough one. I mean, I guess you kind of would have to say playing I Believe in a Thing Called Love, as your final song, at a big gig where everyone wants to hear that song. That's pretty good. They actually had a song which I think was a lot lesser known off the album they had out at the time called Concrete, I think it was.
Yeah.
And I just loved playing that song because it was just like a ballsy riff, got to shove a bit of double bass drums in there just to have some fun, and that was cool. But I mean, to be honest, all of it was just a laugh. I remember we were doing a gig in Milan supporting Motley Crue at Gods of Metal Festival, I think it was. And we'd been told, evidently Tommy Lee had sent an email to management saying, I'd really like to meet the band and all this. And we were like,
wicked.
Cool. Never got to meet him because, we
not?
did a gig and we had to piss off really quickly and go somewhere else. But I remember after about the third song, I looked to the left of the stage and literally about 10 feet from me, Tommy Lee was just watching me drumming, rocking out. And I was like, yeah, this is like, if I could have told like 10-year-old me that would have happened when I was listening to Dr. Feelgood. And then I remember at one point I was kind of looking at, he's on his BlackBerry sending a message. I'm like, I'm obviously not doing well. And it came to like my little 8-bar drum solo that the band had put in, and I sort of chucked out my little contrived licks. And I just remember Tommy putting his phone down and looking up and go like, yeah, man. And I was like, yes, that has that's
the boy.
That has made my year. So I didn't meet him, but he sort of, we had a little telepathy thing going on, and he was really cool.
That's sick though, because those kind of drummers. I mean, I love that whole big hard hit kind of, not necessarily trying to fill in as much as you can in the space that you've got, but keeping that, having such a big groove.
Amazing.
I love it. I love that sort of thing. Like I used to like Randy Castillo. I used to love what he did when he was playing with Ozzy. Just fab. And I think it's just great. I was talking to Shutty, used to play with TerraVision a few weeks ago.
Well, the funny thing is, I just recorded a song with the singer from TerraVision.
Have you with Tony Wright?
Yeah, he did. I've been working on an album with a band called the Dowling Pool, which is a guy called Willie Dowling that used to be in a band called Honeycrack, and he was in the Wild Hearts.
Yeah.
And so Tony sung on the song. So there you go.
Amazing. I love it though. This is the thing. I love it with all the little connections.
Yeah.
I think it's brilliant. And it was funny because Shutty was saying to me that Tommy Lee is his kind of, that he's the to him, he's the drummer. He's the one that's influenced him the most, sort of thing. And we were talking about lots of different other things and stuff. And he was saying about when he got to meet Rick Allen from Def Leppard when they toured with them back in '96. And he said what a surreal experience it was, because they're just, like you said about nice guys.
Yeah.
He said they are just nice guys. And they said they're the best 8 weeks on the road ever. It was just lovely, And And then he was talking about when they went out with Motorhead, and he got to sit behind Mickey D's kit, and
Yeah.
he said he wouldn't know where to start.
Yeah, massive drums and loads of them.
It's just brilliant hearing how different people feel about it all, you know. And I just love that. It's just awesome. It's just so cool.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
While we're talking about kits and stuff, have you got a
Yeah.
favourite kind of setup? You know, as in, because I've got a 2 up, 2 down, you know, with a single kick but double bass pedal, and a couple of crashes and a China. You know, have you got a certain like layout that is your layout that you love to have all the time?
I mean, I swap depending on the gig. Right. So, you know, obviously, if I've got something that needs a lot of drums, I'll use a lot of drums. I mean, in my studio, my main setup is 2 racks, 1 floor. That's my thing. I don't particularly like having 2 floor toms because for some reason my body just doesn't want to move that little extra bit to hit the floor. I just find that uncomfortable. So I'm like, why would I do that? But saying that, for the Devin Townsend gig, I will be using 2 floor toms. Just there's a couple of moments that I need, you know, that real extra weight. But I mean, for me, regularly in my studio, I go 10, 12, 16 toms. Swap out the snare depending on what I'm doing. And then actually, I'm just 2 crash cymbals, a ride, 2 sets of hi-hats, 1 on either side. And then if I need a China or any effects, I'll bring them up. But I'm kind of happy with 2 crash cymbals, ride and hats, kind of does the trick. But also for the Devon gig, I am going to be using, I don't know if you can see this, see if I can move it. You can see to the left of my hi-hat, I've got another bass drum as a floor tom, like a gong drum. And I'm just using that for a couple of moments where the bass drums are just so fast in Devon stuff. I need to cheat. So,
fair enough.
I spoke to him. I said, we had a Zoom call and chatted for ages. Really nice guy. I was like, look, there's one song. I don't think I'm going to get my feet quite up to speed because I'm a fast drummer. I can play fast when I have to, but I'm not what I call like one of those extreme guys where it's like, oh, you're playing 200 BPM on your feet for a minute without stopping. You know, I don't do that. So there's a song called what's it called? Almost Again by Strapping Young Lad, which is just so incredibly fast that it's a couple of moments where I just use the left hand on the gong drum to cheat. So hopefully the audience won't really hear any difference, but you know, I know my limitations.
I think it's fair enough, and I think it's great to kind of hear how you've approached that because it's funny when I was talking to Bob Richards, he was talking to me about the first band that he went and recorded with, and they happened to be based in Salisbury. Anyway, they went to record, and he always used to play with 2 double bass drums live. Anyway, they wouldn't let him take them in the studio. They only let him take 1 in. And there was this one song, and he said, I can't play this particular part of the song without having 2 bass drums.
Yeah.
So they ran a separate track, and he played the double bass drum part on his floor toms. And that's what's on the record.
Wow.
Yeah, because that was the only way he could get it in there of what he needed. And then obviously when they went out and played live, he could play it with how he needed it to be. So it's interesting, isn't it? All those little things that happen.
I mean, I'm an advocate of everyone playing double bass drum, even if you don't want to be, you know, gone are the days where double bass drum is just, you know, it isn't that anymore. It's a lot more complex. But the way I look at it is you can hit every drum on your kit with 2 hands. So why limit yourself and only hit the bass drum with 1 foot, you know? Round yourself out and do both. Plus, it helps you create interesting fills and different patterns that you just can't pull off with 2 hands and 1 foot.
I agree, and I think I love that. I mean, I've had my double pedal for about, I suppose I've had it for about 6 years now, and there's still loads of stuff I'd love to be able to do, and I keep pushing to do more, you know, and just like little shuffle grooves and things that just aren't necessarily overly complicated, but just sound really cool when they're played well.
Yeah. No, it's good. It's rhythmically fun. And very challenging, but I think it's really important to work on your feet as well as your hands, and completely.
I see obviously guys like Thomas Lang. I've seen some of his videos and some of the stuff, and I know obviously you're friends with Thomas. And
I studied with Thomas for years.
Yeah, and I heard about that, and
he's probably responsible for some of the crazy shit that I do.
But that's cool, actually. That while we're talking about him, there was a video that Styx from Steel Panther shared a couple of weeks ago on Facebook,
Right.
and it's of their auditioning drummers that are, to be in the style of Steel Panther, and Thomas is the first one to go in for his audition. So he goes in, and he's all neatly dressed as he does, and
Yeah.
he's playing, and Styx says, right, do your stuff. So he's doing all these lovely little triplets and all sorts of stuff as he's going around the kit. And it sounds amazing, and Styx just goes, no, stop. And he goes, I want you to hit the cymbal like this. And he just tells him to do just to do a choke, and he gets it to do it 4 times in a row, and he's like, that's what I want to hear. And then gradually, as this video goes on, it's so funny. I'll have to send you a link to it.
Yeah, please do. I
was cracked up. I was cracked up. I won't spoil it, but there's some other bits in it that are just absolute genius, and I loved it.
Yeah.
It's just so funny to see. But going back to Thomas and seeing what he does with his feet, it's awe-inspiring what he can do. But also at the same time, it's like, wow, I just don't think I could ever do that. From me personally. But I love to see it because I think it's what an incredible thing, Love it.
I mean, I think any of us can pretty much achieve anything. I mean, maybe we don't have the stamina to play stuff at, stupid speeds and do all of that. I mean, I don't think I could ever play in a death metal band as much as I'd like to have the facility to do that. A, I don't want to do it. And B, I don't want to sit there and put all that work in getting my feet really fast. But I think, you can definitely take ideas and things from some of the crazy shit that they do and find ways to make it work for you.
So you're going to have plenty of opportunity to witness that at Bloodstock.
Yeah, right. Well, I don't know. Judging by the whole sort of COVID health and safety guidelines, I don't think I'm going to be watching many bands. We've got to be we're taking it really seriously in terms of making sure that everyone's safe and no one's exposed to more people than they have to be. So I might have dodged a bullet on having to watch too many death metal bands.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I was talking to somebody else about this. We were talking about the double bass drumming actually, and how some of those death metal bands, it's just a barrage and it's just there constant, all the time. And then, like you said, as much as it's skilled and everything to be able to do that, sometimes it just becomes a wall of nothing because it never diminishes. It's just there.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it's a style, isn't it? It's a style that people like and people love to do. And I think it's great people do like stuff like that. For me, it's just not something that I would do. I'm always amazed when I see some of these drummers. And in fact, doing some prep for some of the crazy Devin songs, I was like watching, how are they doing that technique to pull that off really quickly? And some of these drummers are absolutely frightening. Absolutely frightening. But I mean, interestingly, talk about Thomas Lang. I had my album that I recorded over lockdown. I had Marco Miniman guest on it.
Oh, did you?
So me and Marco are doing like a drum duet sort of battle against each other in this one song. And it's funny because, I mean, Marco's a phenomenal drummer and he's got, the fusion thing, he's got the quirky thing, he's got the straight head thing, but then he can also do all that crazy death metal stuff if he wants. His facility is awesome. But he's a great player, and it was cool to be able to do some stuff with him.
Yeah, it's opportunity, isn't it? And I think that's just fab when you get to do that. I love it. Now I know obviously you're you like the whole jazz fusion thing. That's kind of your thing, if you like. Have you got are there any funk kind of drummers that have maybe influenced you along your career that have gone, I really like the way you play that? I know, because I heard you talk about Weckl before and guys like that, but has there been anyone that's, and I know you like Mitch Mitchell and people like that, but I'm just wondering about, has there been anyone that is from a slightly different genre that's made something stand out and go, do you know what, I want that in my tool bag. I want to be able to do that because that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you've listened to other stuff, as just said, for anyone that doesn't know, the guys that I probably grew up with that I loved were Dave Weckl, Dennis Chambers, Simon Phillips, Greg Bissonette, Jeff Porcaro. Those were probably the main guys that I loved as a kid. Now, as of today, I don't know why I didn't study Vinny much as a younger drummer. I just didn't. But yeah, Vinny Colaiuta blows my mind. I'm trying to steal so much stuff off him at the moment, like, as much as I can. And also Virgil Donati is another one that I like to steal the kind of the craziest stuff from. So those are kind of the main people I like. But I mean, I was also, very influenced. I thought Andy Newmark was a great drummer. Some of the stuff he did on Sly Stone, was fantastic. Like some of the old Motown guys, Gadsden and Bernard Purdie, all of those people, David Garibaldi, they're all fantastic as well. So I kind of just liked anyone that was good, and I tried to kind of steal a little bit from a lot of people.
Yeah, the only reason I ask is because I saw an interview with Chad Smith a few years ago, and he was saying how that he likes to he would take certain bits by certain guys and try and make his own thing.
Yeah,
For me, Chad Smith he's the man. I've always
he's got a deep pocket on him.
love it, and I just love his grooves. And when I started drumming back in 1990, and I've first kit as a dodgy old Premier Club, ropey as you like. Every gran and its dog had played it up until that point, but new, what it's like, new skins, it brought it back to life. It sounded great. And I remember listening to Blood Sugar and thinking, that's the sound I want. That's how I want to play. And hearing all those grace notes and just those extras that just sound and make things stand out that little bit more.
Oh,
I love that.
If you go on YouTube, you can hear a lot of the Blood Sugar drum tracks isolated on their own, and they're
wicked.
They're fantastic. And you know what? I don't think many of them are recorded to a click. You can hear the timing shift, you can hear things changing, but that's just what makes it groove as much as it does. It's getting boring when everything's just stuck on a grid, and it doesn't sound as good as those records that actually had some personality in them.
Yeah, and I think you're right. It's that feel that it gives, and I think it's got to make you move, hasn't it? I remember when the band I was in at the time, like early 90s, we used to do a lot of Chili's covers because it was just good for the places we played, And I remember we were doing this sound check in this one place. It was a battle of the bands, I think, and I remember we'd warmed up, we'd give it away because that was one of our stronger Chili's songs at the time.
Sure.
And we just finished this song, and I just remember this kid coming in, and he's like, "Oh, you guys playing Chili Peppers tonight?" We're like, "Yeah, we got a couple in our set." He's like, "Oh man, that's awesome!" And he was just, and we were like, "Yeah, we're so doing the right thing because the guys that are coming in want to hear that." This is when everything was, that sort of thing was so big. Smashing Pumpkins were huge, and Pearl Jam, Soundgarden. It was that era, of that kind of thing, where all the hair metal had kind of died off. Sadly, because I still love that, but then you still have that. Then you had that resurgence of those British bands coming through, like the Wild Hearts and Terrorvision and Reef and all of that stuff.
Yeah, I think the Wild Hearts are playing on the Bloodstock on the same stage on the day I'm playing it.
They are. I noticed that on the lineup. Yeah.
So that will be fun. Because I think I played very briefly with CJ from the Wild Hearts about 20 years ago. So I'd be interested to see him again as well. Like coming back to it's just funny. All these bands are sort of coming back out of the woodwork, but it's really cool to see them.
Yeah, I think it's epic, and I think more the merrier. Really, I think loads of people have realised, loads of musicians have realised that there's more to life now, and actually they should be being active and doing more. And I think there's absolute room for it.
Yeah. I mean, I think the whole pandemic's been a big realization for a lot of people. I mean, I think one thing I've learned from this pandemic is that I don't need to earn nearly as much money as I thought I did to survive in life. I know it sounds a bit facetious, but it's true. It's like you go and you tour and you go, "Oh God, I've got to make X amount of thousands a month and do this and do that." Actually, you kind of don't, especially when you're not going out just spunking your money on things you don't need, like dinners and 20 more snare drums that you don't need. But yeah, it's definitely, I think we've all changed our approach to what's going on. But I think that while this pandemic sucked, it did give a lot of us a massive chance to actually achieve some stuff that we normally wouldn't have the time to do. It's like you can sit there and moan and go, oh, life's crap. And of course it is for a lot of people. And I mean, I'm fortunate. I've got my own studio here, and I can still play my drums and do albums for people, on a daily basis, and it's all right. But it was definitely a chance for people to, even if it's working on a pad, actually put some more time in and improve at what you're doing, I mean, like for me, like I mentioned earlier, I was like at the start of lockdown, because I was on tour with Martin Barr in Chile when this happened, and we had to leave Chile in South America on like 24 hours notice, or we were going to get stuck there. And I got back, and a couple of days later, it was just really apparent that life was not going to be the same for like at least a year, and it's turned out it's been more like 2 years now. So like, instead of just sitting around and moaning, I'd always wanted to make an album of my own. It's like sort of the bucket list here. I must make my own album. Never had the time, because I'm always jaunting around the world and too busy. And I was like, right, I actually have some time, and I'm gonna do it. And I feel like I've come out. I actually feel like I've come out of lockdown more successful than when I went in, which is kind of a bizarre thing. But I put a lot of work into something which. Originally I thought, I'll make an album in a week with a couple of friends. I'll knock up some covers, and it'll be done in 3 weeks. And that turned into like a 10-month thing that got really, really out of hand, and 10 months like working hours every day on it. And then I just started like messaging like musician friends and people I toured with, and suddenly I've made an album that's got like Don Airey from Deep Purple, Bumblefoot from Guns N' Roses, Justin Hawkins, Pear from Meshuggah, Matthias Eklund from Free. It was just bizarre. Like, it's like all musicians seem to want to come together and help each other out and create stuff. So I kind of came out of that having made a record with some of my favorite musicians, and feel like I made good use of my time and didn't just sort of wallow in self-pity.
And I think that's it. I think it's always looking about that silver lining. So as much as things have been tough, and they have been tough for everybody in different ways, and everyone's been affected in their own, as we know, in their own way somehow. And I think it's you're right. It's you've got to look for the good things in it.
Yeah.
To know that you're going to come out.
Or try and make some good things out of it.
Yes.
It's And actually, we're talking about earlier about like meeting people and getting gigs and being introduced to stuff, and actually, I think in a way you have to be a fairly positive person and try and make the most of things, because people don't want to hang out with dickheads, do they? They want to hang out with people. It's true. It's obviously, I think being a drummer, one thing is you've got to be as good as you can be on your instrument. That's always helpful, and don't be a dick. They're kind of like the two main things you need to achieve, and then you've got a chance of success.
I think this is a thing. It's funny, isn't it? Because obviously, out of this is why all these podcasts have started happening. Because 2 years ago, so this is the February before COVID really hit, just when stuff was starting to kick off, and all the stuff had happened in Wutan, and everyone was going on about it. I did this drum show, a theatre in Cirencester,
Right.
And essentially it was for my school students and for my private students. I did a show in the evening, show in the afternoon. The afternoon was for all the school kids, and it was awesome. They loved it. The show in the evening, but in the evening I had a friend of mine who is also a session drummer. He came and he just got back off tour with the band he was out with, and I said to him, "Oh mate, can you come and would you mind just coming and doing a bit of a demo of some of the stuff you've been doing out on the road for the last couple of weeks, and just talk about your kit and all those sorts of things?" He's like, "Yeah man, I'd love to do that." So he came and he did that, which is awesome. We stuck it right at the end of the show, so we had about half an hour left, and he played along to a couple of the tracks, which were great, and I had a little chat with him afterwards.
Yeah.
And I had loads of the audience that came up to me after everything, when they were leaving and stuff. And they're like, "Oh, Kelv, have you ever thought about doing interviews and stuff with people? So, because you had a really great manner with Adam." And I was like, "Well, no, I hadn't really, but thanks. That's great." And that's how it's kind of snowballed, really, Darby, to be honest. So off the back of that, it sowed a seed in my head. It's like, well, maybe I'm missing out on a trick here. Maybe I should be doing something like this, and trying to reach out to other guys that are in the industry doing their thing, but not might not necessarily be known for doing their thing because they're not Taylor Hawkins or they're not Tommy Lee or they're not Lars Ulrich or the list is endless of those guys. But what about those working class guys like yourself who are constantly doing it, grafting and making a good living out of it? But unless you knew about you, no one would know. Do you know where I'm coming from? And I love that.
It's great. I quite like being that sort of drummer, though. I kind of describe myself as the guy that comes in to save the day. Like someone needs a drummer. I just need to be the guy people call, and that's why my CV's been so varied, and I love that. And it's for me, like someone said to me, "Oh, how do you become a famous drummer?" And I was just like, I think that's the wrong question. What you really want to do is just focus on becoming a working musician that works a lot. And if you become a working musician, you never know, you might become a famous musician. But just going out to seek fame and fortune, I think is, especially in music, it's not really the right thing. Just
I think it's absolutely
practice to work.
I think it's a really good way of looking at it, and I think it's important to think like that as well, because it's about being the best you can at the job you do. And I think if you love the job you do, it's not a job.
Yeah.
Someone said to me last year or so, it's all right for you because you've got a jobby. And I said, what do you mean you've got a jobby? He said, well, you're doing your job and your hobby at the same time. So
right.
And I'm like, yeah, okay, that's a fair point, because it doesn't feel like work to me.
No.
Because it's
not. There are times I love what I do, but there are times where I've been stuck in America for 2.5 months and I haven't had a day off in 16 days. And we've driven like 200-300 miles a day and a couple of plane flights here and there. And there are moments where you have that brief sort of, oh my God, I just need a day off. I don't want to play a show tonight. And it's not in an insulting way to the people that like what you do, but there's times where any job, it gets difficult and you need a break. But then more often than not, you get out on stage and you go, right, this is why I do this. This is cool. So, but it depends. But yeah, traveling can definitely wear you out a bit.
Yeah, I mean, that's something I've not ever had to experience because I haven't. But I've heard other guys say the same thing as you have. I know what I was saying about my friend Adam. They'd been over in the States. Were touring for about 6-7 weeks over there with a big band. I can't remember the name of the band exactly now. Who they were touring with. But anyway, they were doing like House of Blues shows. So they were doing like 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 seater venues. Yeah. And it was that relentless push, like you said, and he was sending me through photographs of him, of him playing out on the road and little things. It was really cool, and I love the fact he was sharing it with me. But it was, he looked absolutely hanging when he got back. You could just tell you could tell he needed to have a break because it was the relentlessness of it that he found really hard going. And I don't think knew it was going to be like that because it was the first experience of that. So it's interesting.
It is. Unfortunately, I'm one of those guys. I get back off that 3-month tour and I'm knackered, and then I get a call to do a function gig the following night, and I'm just like, oh, okay, I'll do it. I can't not work. I enjoy it too much. It's like I posted a funny picture on my Facebook the other day of it was like the life of a working drummer, and it was Friday night's gig was Tea in the Park with the Darkness in front of about 80,000 people, and then Saturday night's gig was in a scout hut near Guildford for a 13-year-old girl's birthday party in front of about 18 young girls that didn't give a shit about the music. So,
and I think that's it. It's all about those things, isn't it? Definitely. I love it.
Hey, playing music, and making money is making money. And if you can make money doing what you spent years practicing doing it, being touring in Metallica or doing recording sessions or teaching or teaching in schools, whatever it might be, as long as you're doing it with music, you're being successful. It doesn't matter.
Absolutely. No, I couldn't agree with you more. I think it's just great. One of the things I wanted to talk to you about a little bit was your experience doing The Lion King. Now, the reason for asking this is one of the schools that I've been teaching at for quite a while, they always used to do an end of summer show, and they always did it at a theatre. And I remember the first time I got asked to go and to do the accompaniment, be a part of the band, and I was really nervous about it because I'd never really done show tunes before, and
Yeah.
they were doing Joseph,
Okay.
and
I think I played at Joseph in my secondary school, actually.
did you?
I think I did that one as well.
And I tell you what, I came after it. We did about 3 shows, I think, something like that. And after it was all over, I went, wow, that was so cool because it really pushed me out of my comfort zone so much.
Yeah.
But what it also allowed me to appreciate was the other things that I was applying in other songs that I was learning within the cover band or whatever. It allowed me to see where those crossovers were, and I'd never really given it that much thought up until then. So then every time when the show came round, like on this annual basis, I really looked forward to it because it just became this thing of like, yeah, great. I mean, one year we did Mary Poppins, and yeah, it was just really cool doing that. Or we did Wizard of Oz. That was another one. You know, we did a few shows of that sort of size, and it was just such fun. And I really miss that. The head teacher, she's retired now, so the school aren't doing that anymore, which is such a shame.
That's a shame. Well, it's a challenge doing that because, you know, it's all fine and well playing your favourite Red Hot Chili Peppers song, but, you know, suddenly, you know, West End musicals and plays, it's not the same thing. You have to kind of play in a different way, and you have to be aware of actors and singers and stuff like that. And it's a challenge. It's a real challenge.
It is. And what I heard a little bit when you were in that other podcast that I heard, you know, from a few years ago that you'd done. But it's those things where you are waiting for cues from other people to know exactly where you need certain things to be, or if something doesn't go quite how you want it to go,
you have to wait. Yeah. Well, I mean, ultimately, the musical director and the conductor is responsible for all of that. So while, you know, you've got saying you've got your sheet music, I remember with The Lion King, because I originally got it, in fact, Andy Newmark, the drummer, got me on The Lion King because he had the gig, and we were friends when we met at Zildjian one time, both like picking out ride cymbals, and so I'm digressing now, but
it's cool though. I love hearing it, so it's fine.
Yeah, but being on the gig, you know, it's like, I remember Andy gave me all the sheet music, said, there you go. And at the time I was a good reader, but I'm not a fluent reader. So if you just put something in front of me and say, right, 1, 2, 3, 4, go, I would have got a lot of it right. But I'm one of these people, I want to look through stuff. And actually, I think most musicians are the same. But what I found is with The Lion King, and I assume this might go for other shows as well, there was so much to pay attention to. You know, you've got the MD there that's guiding you and giving you cues, and if something goes wrong on stage, he's holding you on a certain passage. You know, even though it says repeat twice, you might suddenly have to repeat it 20 times while they fix, you know, whatever's going on. And then I remember we had a TV monitor to the right of the drums that I had to watch for people on stage for certain things as well. So it almost got to the point you needed to learn the music. You couldn't sight read it because there was too much other shit going on that you actually had to do.
No, I completely agree. Completely agree. Because I remember when I was learning Joseph, I literally learnt the songs so I knew them. So I listened to them in the car. You know, I had to become completely submersed in it. Yeah. So that then when there were other things going on, like you're saying, I knew that actually the music side of it was fine. It was going to be okay. Yeah. Because I knew I could trust myself that I knew where I was. I remember on the evening performance, it was the last one that they were doing, because they had this camel, and these boys got stuck in the camel, and it was just the funniest thing. But this one bit, we just ended up having to repeat this little bit. I think it was in is it Potiphar's Wife? It was, anyway, whatever the song was. Yeah. And it speeds up, so it starts off with this one nice sort of gentle kind of dum 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 dum, and then it gradually increases, and then it just stops. And at this bit where it stopped, this is where this camel had to come in. Anyway, the camel got stuck in the wings, and it got all wrapped up in all. And these two boys just couldn't get themselves out of the wings. It was hilarious, and everyone was cracked up in the audience. But we had to keep that bit going, because otherwise they wouldn't have been able to get them on. So we had to keep that. Yeah, it was just, and it was one of those moments of like. And I was looking over at Kate, the lady who was playing the piano, and she was like, no, and she was nodding, keep going. You know, it was this whole thing, just keep going, and we were going around for ages, but it was great fun, and I miss that a lot.
Yeah,
you know,
well, hopefully you get to do it again. But I mean, in a way, it's the same thing if you're on tour with a band or something. You know, maybe you're about to come to the first verse and the microphone's not working, so you've got to keep playing or doing something till the crew comes out and replaces it. So it's kind of, it doesn't matter how well you know a song, you've always got to expect the unexpected when you're playing live.
Yeah, and there's nothing quite like that either. I think that
No,
keeps you on edge. You know,
yeah,
it's the buzz. There's something that's very cool about that. I love it. You know,
yeah,
it's just, yeah, it's
yeah.
great. It's great. It's a great vibe. So I am gonna ask you what's the biggest crowd you've played in front of? And not that that's necessarily important, but it's just
Uh,
interesting to know what that experience is like.
I think when I did Tea in the Park with the Darkness, I think that might have been about 80,000 people. So I
Amazing.
would say I think that is the biggest. But like you do festivals, 20, 30, 40,000 people's kind of the norm, doing that sort of stuff. But yeah, I think probably about 80-ish, I think was 80,000, not 80 people.
I was was that quite daunting playing to that sort of
No,
size, or
no,
was it kind
no.
of just
It's just
a walk in the park, literally?
I would call it a walk in the park, but it's just like it's what I do day in, or what I did do day in day out. So it's just like, oh, where are we playing today? Oh, there happens to be more people, but it's kind of, just to me, a gig's a gig.
Yeah,
It really is. So it doesn't matter whether there's 5 people there or 5,000 or 50,000. It's just you get up there and you do what you do and you enjoy yourself. I think there comes a point where there's so many people at a gig anyway, it doesn't really make any difference.
right.
It is what it is. But I really like playing, like when we were on tour with Martin in America, South America. We were probably doing like 3,000 seat venues, and I always think that's quite a nice sort of size room because it's not too big, but it's a nice amount of people.
Yeah, to
Um,
get that nice bit of feedback from them, from your
yeah,
audience. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But a gig's a gig. I enjoy playing, so it kind of doesn't really matter how many people are there.
That's cool. Have you got any aspirations of people that you perhaps like to cross paths with and have the opportunity to play with? Is there anyone that
I've not,
you know?
I've
No.
not really thought about that. I like to just wait and see what happens. I mean, it's like, throughout the last 10 years, I'm doing the Devin Townsend thing now. I got to play The Power of Love with Huey Lewis. I got to play, rock and roll with Robert Plant. I get to play with Robin Ford. So I've had all these random little opportunities that have come up, and when they happen, I'm like, yeah, this is cool. But I don't really go, oh, I can't wait to do this with so and so. Just
Yeah.
like to see what happens, really.
No,
And
that's
so
fair enough.
far I seem to just jump from one thing to another, or get a call for, so I get a call, oh, do you want to play with so and so? I'm like, wow, that's really cool. Yeah, of course I do.
No, that's
It's like when sorry, go on.
no. I said that's great. I think it's a nice way of looking at things. Just not necessarily having stuff planned, but waiting for just that whatever that next opportunity that
Yeah.
comes along. And I like that way of
Yeah,
looking at
well,
things.
completely. I mean, it's like looking at where I am with the Devon thing. It's like I got a phone call back in 2016 to do. Someone said, "Oh, we need a drummer for the Kee Marcello tour," and Kee was the guitar player in the rock band Europe. The Final
Yeah.
Countdown.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And being a kid, I was a massive fan of Europe. I loved them, and I was like, actually, it was only about 5 shows, and it fell in a period where I only had to cancel one show, and I could make it work. And I did that, and obviously it was awesome playing some of those songs, and then me and Key hit it off really well, and then I've been to Sweden a couple of times to do his last couple of albums, and then through that I ended up doing a ton of work with a bunch of other famous Swedish people. And then I got hooked up with the company Tune Track that makes Superior Drummer, which you
Hmm.
probably know.
Yeah, I do.
And now I do like loads of MIDI for Tune Track and loads of work for them.
Oh, awesome.
And then through Tune Track, I got the owner of Tune Track, my friend Matthias. Randomly, but in fact, this is crazy. So I did the Kee Marcello album, and there was a guitarist called Matthias Eklund, a Swedish guy that did like a guest solo on it. And I've been a big fan of Matthias. He's a phenomenal player. His band Free Kitchen, just check him out. They're great. And so I messaged Matthias on Facebook. I was like, oh, hey, man, we played on the same record. Great playing. Maybe I'll see you at some point, just something like that. And I got a message back from this guy saying, oh, yeah, you've got the wrong Matthias. I'm not him. And I was like, oh, okay. But it turned out this guy was the owner of Tune Track and Superior Drummer and all that. And
Wow. Okay.
randomly, we just became friends, and he came to my show when I was playing in Gothenburg and when I was in Stockholm and stuff. And then he called me one day to do stuff for Toon Track, and then he's obviously Devin does a lot of stuff with Toon Track, and Matthias wrote to Devin, who's like, "Oh, when you're doing your next album, you should, think about using Darby because he's great." His words, not mine. And
that's cool though. Love it.
and then Matthias went, and then Devin was like, "Oh, I've actually got a show in England I need a drummer for," and I just got an email out of the blue from Devin going, "Hey man, I checked you out on YouTube, love your playing. Do you want to play in my band?" So it's kind of like me saying yes to a small gig, in England for 5 shows 6 years ago has now resulted me in doing this, and so much has come from it in the middle of it. It's crazy.
That's amazing, because there's a massive influx of like those AOR, or hard rock bands coming from Sweden at the moment. It's huge,
massive,
huge, and I love it. And there's a lot of bands over there that I really like at the moment. There's like bands like Eclipse.
We've done a few festivals with those guys.
They're amazing. I genuinely think they're fantastic. I love their sound. He's got a great voice. Then you've got bands like Reckless Love, and you've got Art Nation, Wet. They're just, I could keep going on, but I just love that whole thing.
Well, Christopher, the old guitarist from Art Nation, he was the assistant at the recording studio where I had my album mixed.
Was it? Well, there we go.
Yeah, so it's there you go, even more small worlds.
It's brilliant, because the track Ghost Town, I just can't get enough of that. I love the drum track on that. If you haven't heard it, it's just amazing. Check it out. Turn it up to 11, All
right. Well, you need to have a listen to the new Kee Marcello album we've done. It's this project called Out of This World, which is like the same name as the old Europe album. But that's obviously Kee, and there's a singer called Tommy Hart who is in a German band called Fair Warning.
Yes, I've heard of them.
Yeah, and Ken Sandin on bass from a big AOR Swedish band called Alien.
I know them.
Yeah. So, but if you like those bands, this album will be right up your alley, I think.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, it was mixed by Ron Neverson that did like Kiss and all of those bands. Nice. It's been getting rave reviews, which is cool. So,
I will definitely give that a listen. That sounds really cool. Yeah, no, I love it, because this is the thing, and it's like when I was talking to Pete Newdeck last week, and he was saying to me about because he's good friends with Harry from Harem Scarum,
right?
And he's been doing some stuff on another project. The band are called First Signal, and again, they're just a collection of musicians from various bands that are just doing this thing, and I think this is like their 3rd album now that they're doing.
Yeah.
And obviously Harry does all the vocals. And when I was talking to Pete, he said, "Oh yeah, I wrote one of the songs that was on that." And then a couple of the guys in Vegas, he said, "Oh yeah, they wrote one of the," and it's just I love hearing all of that. The way everything is so connected, it's just blows me away. I love it. The thing is so cool.
Yeah, most musicians are cool, and it's like I found like if I meet a musician that I get on with really well, chances are I'm going to get on with all his friends really well as well, because it's what happens. So I think most musicians are really cool. You get the occasional dick, but
whenever we work with someone, it's hard. Sometimes there are going to be a clash of personalities, because that's just how it is. Yeah. But like you said, the majority of people are nice guys, and you just get on with them, and it's cool, and that's how it should be.
It comes back to what I said earlier. No one wants to work with a dick. You've got to be personable and get on, and kind of also know who you're working with as well. I like to have a joke around and stuff, but there's certain people that I would work with and tour with where I will behave differently than I will with other people, because you have to make the people you're working with feel comfortable and not put them out of their comfort zone. So it's
absolutely. Mate, it's been amazing today. I could carry on talking to you for hours, but I know you've got rehearsal to do.
Loads of stuff to do here.
Loads of stuff, and I've got to teach in just over an hour, which is fine. Which is all cool. It's all good as well. I don't know if it's possible, but would you be up for having another chat at some point, and maybe showing off a few bits on your kit and doing a few things like that?
I'm sure we can sort something out at some point for sure.
That would be amazing. That'd be like properly epic. Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah, we'll do it. And if you're down in London, come hang out. Or if I'm passing your way, I'll pop by and.
Yeah, man, that'd be amazing. I'd love to do that. That'd be really cool. Hopefully I'm going to be doing another drum show in 2022. That's the plan at the moment. And I'm hoping to do a bit of a showcase with a few drummers for upcoming drummers to see playing and things. So,
well, I think stuff like that's really important. Back in the day when I was growing up as a kid, you'd have those Zildjian Day in Londons, and you'd have clinics all the time at shops, and all that stuff seems to have died the death. And I think that's a real sad thing, because I learned so much seeing drummers at clinics and those Zildjian Days and stuff. And I think people need to start bringing that stuff back.
Yeah, that's what I'm genuinely wanting to try and do, because I think if we can do that, it's inspiring the new generation of how to do things as well. And they might hear things like that you might play that someone else doesn't do, and they go, "Oh yeah, I love that," or like we were talking about earlier on. And I think that's it's amazing. I remember I saw Nico McBrain do it when he did Rhythm of the Beast, and I remember up until then I'd never known how to tune a drum. I was talking to Bob Richards about this, and it was a complete life-changing moment. It's like, well, that's how you get it to sound nice,
Yeah.
But until that point, no one had ever told me or shown me or had that opportunity to go and experience that. But it wasn't, and then it's like, wow, okay.
It's great. It's great when you learn little things that you're just like, why didn't I learn that years ago?
Yeah.
Like, I tell you, I had one of those recently. In fact, I was out in Sweden last week doing a massive project out there, and Jake, the guy that runs the studio, we were changing drum heads. He was just using a drill to change the drum heads, and I'm like, why have I never done this? It speeds the process up so much. Just bang it on, bzz, done. But yeah, it's weird. Even after all the years I've been playing drums and everything I've done, I never thought to bother getting an electric drill to change my drum heads.
You use a drum key. Yeah, but you're right though, because it takes time swapping heads out. Yeah,
it's boring. I mean, it's all right when I'm on a gig where I've got a drum tech and they do it all, but back here, I own about 6 or 7 drum kits, and I kind of like to have them all playable at any time. So yeah, changing all those heads is a bit of a nightmare.
Yeah, absolutely. No, this is it. Amazing. Awesome, brilliant man. Stuff. Good. Darby, thank you so much for giving up some time today. I really appreciate it, like loads. So I will, we'll do this again.
Yeah, I'm just looking forward to turning my fan back on in here to cool it down. I couldn't have it on because it would have just ruined the recording. So
that's cool, mate. No worries.
I'm sweating more right now than when I'm playing the drums.
All right, well, I will catch you very soon, fella, and thank you very much for giving up some time and chatting to me today about everything. All right, cool. And nice one.